Hello, everybody, and welcome to Right Here, Right Now, live Buffalo football talk presented by Forefathers Organics. I'm your host, Alex Brasky, alongside my co-host, Ajay Cybulski, here for the Batavia Daily and Livingston County News. Each week, we'll discuss Buffalo's favorite football team, along with all the comings and goings from Orchard Park, thanks to our friends at Forefathers Organics in Dansville.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, a Friday night pod for the people. Prime time almost here on Friday night. How you doing? Any plans for the weekend?
Yeah, OG Fortnite's back, which is like something that I probably played too much back in my high school days with my buddies. So got a couple of my buddies
would agree.
Yes, they would agree. So I got some buddies coming over tonight. They're all bringing their systems and
the old LAN, LAN. I love that.
So we're gonna get like the three of us. We're all gonna set up our systems and just game all night and have a good time. And then tomorrow, probably a more relaxing day. A lot of it's the championship weekend for college football, so I think I need to pay attention to that because I'm technically a Notre Dame fan, so I kind of want to see where they fall in the lineup there. And then on Sunday, football. So yeah, Saturday, Sunday will be probably all football, but tonight have some fun with my buddies and play some Fortnite and look back to the good times back in the high school days, and that's all we really did. And that was what we did back then. It was Fortnite, and now it's back, so it's pretty cool.
I'm from the OG generation from the LAN days, way back in the day. Halo 1,
yep.
SOCOM on PlayStation. We had, this is a little bit of a deep cut, Shadowrun on Xbox was one of my favorite games. And then obviously Call of Duty came out and everything kind of took off online. But those LAN events that we used to have, boy, I remember those. Stay up all night.
Yep.
Enjoy the night with your boys. Nothing beats those memories. But let's hop into the topic at hand, what people came to the pod to talk about or to hear us talk about here tonight. And we'll start off with Micah Hyde's return. We're kind of late to the party discussing it on the podcast. Didn't have time on Wednesday or Thursday with our other responsibilities. But I was out at practice on Wednesday, talked to Micah and a bunch of his teammates to gauge their reaction on the addition of the veteran safety and what they expect from him in his practice squad role and whether or not he'll be able to work his way into a contributing role over the next 5 weeks or so as the Bills progress toward the playoffs. I think if you ask me, it's unlikely that Micah Hyde will ever find his way to a significant contributing role on this team, barring injury. I think if Taylor Rapp, who is good to go this week after a scare earlier this week, he will enter this week's game without an injury designation. And obviously Damar Hamlin, if either of those two players go down, I think all bets are off. But as it stands right now, I find it highly unlikely that Micah Hyde's going to find his way into a starting role or even a heavy rotational role. I think maybe you'll see him out there in certain spots. I think he may be the third man up in that rotation now when it comes to postseason time, just due to his overall experience in those positions and what he can do in terms of limiting the deep ball. When he was at the back end of the Bills defense, they allowed the deep ball at the lowest rate in the NFL. And a big reason for that was Micah Hyde. And during the postseason, you really hate to give up those big plays. So while it's unlikely, I wouldn't rule anything out, although I would almost for sure rule out that he'll be activated for this Sunday's game against the Rams. I just think it's too quick. He's only had a few games, and I think he still needs to work his way back into game shape and maybe physical shape, admitting that he's a little bit on the lighter side from his previous game shape. And when Deion Dawkins saw him, one of his first comments was, "You're looking a little skinny, son." So I don't think Hyde's ready at this moment, and I'm just not sure he'll ever be ready to get back on the field and produce a more effective role than we've seen from Taylor Rapp or Damar Hamlin. Barring injury, I think those two are what you go in to the postseason with.
Yeah, I think you were on this all season, and I guess the situation kind of presented itself, right? They get to 10-2. You feel like they're in a good spot. The safety play has been I think as of late, over the last month or so, very good. Now there's still some times where they have some miscues, but again, they really do inside that red zone. The safeties, I think, have done a good job not getting beat and have not allowed many passing touchdowns against opponents. So I think with what you have, I think I agree with you on the Rap and Hamlin point. I think they're there to stay. I don't really think. I mean, maybe in an extreme scenario, in the postseason where you see Hamlin or Rap go down, and then like they throw in a Jamarcus Ingram, Cam Lewis, Cole Bishop, even a Kareem Jackson, who's also on the practice squad. That's been here all year. It'll be interesting to see how they go about that. I'd kind of be shocked if Hyde's earlier in that rotation, just because he hasn't played all year and they've had these guys around. And I think based off, I listened to his press conference and he didn't really allude to what his exact role would be. But I think he's there to win a ring. And I think this is a very opportune time for the Bills looking across the AFC, the landscape of the AFC, where they're looking at. I think they have a great opportunity to do that. And I think Micah Hyde is deserving of doing that. He still probably has a little bit of juice left in the tank. Obviously, he's still practicing, going out there and doing some things. But I think he's just here for the vibes. I think he's here to be a mentor. I think he's here to be a leader. And I think he's going to help these younger guys in big moments if they need to, be asked to step up. You saw Jamarcus Ingram step up early in the season against the Dolphins, make some big plays. You've seen Cam Lewis step in for a Taron Johnson, whoever need be, because is a versatile piece on this defense. So overall, I'm happy he's back. I think he's going to be a valuable piece regardless if he plays or not. And at the end of the day, unless an extreme pinch, I think he's just going to be that vocal leader, and just his presence in that locker room. I think based off what players said on Wednesday and throughout the week and what he just brings, again, to the overall team and organization, that is more important to me than what he's going to contribute to on the field.
Yeah, you mentioned the leadership aspect. Sean McDermott had a funny quote. He said, whether it be the president of the bank down the street or the captain of the Bills, I'm not quoting it exactly. He said Micah Hyde would be suited for either role. He's just got a special way about him in terms of his leadership ability. Dawson Knox also commenting on that. Greg Rousseau as well. I believe Greg Rousseau was the one who said it. It's like Micah Hyde never left. He's just that type of personality that can fit back into a situation and not have it feel awkward. We all know, even if it's our best buddy from growing up that we've known forever, if you haven't seen him in a while, if he hasn't been around with you and the rest of your buddies, fitting him back into the group can be a little awkward. I'm sure you might experience that at your LAN session here tonight, AJ, if you got any guys that you haven't seen in a while. But with Micah Hyde, I just think it's a totally different circumstance. When he fits in, he fits like a glove in every circumstance, just that puzzle piece that seemingly you can put anywhere on the board, and he's going to make it work. But I think it's also telling what Sean McDermott said when he was asked flat out what you expect from Micah Hyde, and he said, frankly, very little. And I think at this point, anything you get from him in terms of on-field production is simply a plus. I think you're right. He's here for the leadership, and he's also here not to ride coattails, but he's here for the ride. He's been along the way since the beginning with Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane, and this whole crew, and putting themselves in position, perhaps the best position, and we'll get to this later toward the end of the podcast, perhaps the best position they've been in to win a Super Bowl with this current regime. I think it only makes sense to have that guy back in the fold. It can only help you. I don't think there's any way that a move like this hurts you. Yeah, and I think, also another aspect of this that we haven't touched on is the injury that he suffered, right? And that's also, I think, a big part of this as well. Like, why... I think he knows going into it, he might be a little out of shape in terms of game shape. He probably still takes care of his body. He's an NFL athlete and he takes care of himself. But in terms of being ready, like you said, for that game atmosphere, I just don't know if his body, will allow him to do that with all the injuries he suffered, especially the stinger. That's very serious injury that a lot of people, a lot of Twitter doctors out there have said there's a really good chance that reoccurs if he goes out there and plays again. So again, I think in an extreme situation where you're seeing like guys drop like flies, sure, I think maybe you could see him like Hyde go out there, especially in the postseason. But I think this regular season is going to be a ramp-up period for him these last 5 weeks. Get him ready just in case you need him down the stretch and let him go on the ride with you. I mean, he said he's watched every game this season. He's super into it. He says his kids are awake now more though during that time because they live in the West Coast. So it's a different time period. Usually when he's in the East Coast, sometimes the kids go to bed. So overall, he's just enjoying, he enjoys the Bills. He loves the Bills. They're his team. That's his home. And he's here to, try and bring a Lombardi trophy to Buffalo and do anything he can, like he said, to get there. There's a chance he'll be on the active roster come game day for the postseason and never be placed on the 53-man roster because you have those unlimited practice squad elevations come postseason time. So I think he'll just be sitting around there during the regular season. Maybe you see him come up once or twice toward the end just to see what he's got, see if he can give you anything on the field, and then come postseason time, maybe you see him on the sideline in uniform, bringing those vibes, contributing in any way he can. But let's move on to further topics closer to the Bills-Rams matchup on Sunday. 4:25 is the start time, AJ. Is that correct?
Yeah, I had 4:35 in the picture I sent you, and I'm like, oh no. And then I saw you typing, so I'm like, I thought you were going to say something. So I quickly said, I got it. I'm going to fix it. So yeah, 4:25 start.
Yeah, I'm not sure an NFL game has ever been scheduled to start.
It hasn't.
So I'm not sure where you got that one from.
Misclick.
But 5 Bills players marked questionable entering Sunday's game. Wide receiver Keon Coleman with a wrist, tight end Dalton Kincaid with a knee, tight end Quentin Morris with a shoulder/groin injury, defensive tackle Dwayne Carter with a wrist, and offensive lineman Tylen Grable with a groin injury. The last 2 remain on IR. So if you bring back Carter or Grable, you're going to have to remove somebody from the 53-man roster, perhaps even 2 if you bring back both. And I think that would point to either Jordan Phillips and Quentin Jefferson. And then you'd have to go to an offensive lineman. I'm not sure. Maybe is Will Clapp on the 53? Let me look at that.
They would have to go. Oh no, sorry, that's the practice squad. I was going to say. Yeah, I'm not Cedric Van Pran Granger, rookie. I mean, yeah, but you're not going to. I mean, maybe you could get him back in the practice squad. Absolutely,
right, could be there as well. But we saw Grable up as that swing tackle to begin the season, and you had Ryan Vandermark inactive at certain points, and obviously we saw Vandermark come in a few weeks ago for Spencer Brown.
Will Clapp is on the 53-man.
Yeah, I thought so. I just wanted to double check. I think maybe he would be the one to go.
I agree. Anderson, Vandermark are safe. So I wouldn't see anything there. Maybe they just stash him on IR and let him come back. You know what I mean? That could be a situation. I think that could happen. They just restash him on the IR and send him back and let him. Kind of a situation, something like last year that happened with where they let a guy practice through his window and then they didn't need him. I think it was Elam, maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure, but something along those lines. They just kind of figured
a lot of vagueness on this pod over the last several seconds. But Keon Coleman and Dalton Kincaid are really the focus here. Coleman's missed 3 straight games, Kincaid 2. So Bill's obviously hoping to get Coleman back. Kincaid, I think you might see one more week. When they brought these guys back after missing games, they usually have them practice at least 1 week before returning to game action. And we didn't see Kincaid practice the last 2 weeks. So it'll be interesting to see if they continue to take things slow with him. But despite Keon Coleman being in that red non-contact jersey throughout this week, I think we'll see him return this week against the Rams.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they kind of factor back in, right? Because this offense is still scoring 30-plus points even without them. So it'll be interesting. I thought Dawson Knox has done a really good job. I think he's proven that he's still a starting caliber tight end in this league in Dalton Kincaid's absence, whether it be in the pass or run game. And I think you see Curtis Samuel, who's really stepped up these past few weeks. I know he's not he's a similar player to Keon Coleman, but it's kind of that next man up. Same with Matt Collins. Has made a couple of red zone grabs, made a couple of big plays on key plays. So I think – overall, I'm just interested to see how they kind of add it into the fold. I don't really think we've seen too much of like an Amari Cooper, Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir type vibe with the Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox out there, James Cook. So the Bills, their Bills are really getting healthy here coming down the stretch. And I think one of them will play. That would be my guess. I don't know which one. And then maybe
who do you think is more likely? Because I think Coleman, obviously, with the 3 games missed, they would have put him on IR, I think, if they were going to keep him out for 4.
Yeah, I think Coleman's more likely, too, because he's been practicing. I think he was limited all of last week, too. So, like you said about Kincaid not really going, I could still see Kincaid playing, maybe in a limited fashion. But it'll be interesting whether Zach Davidson's called up. That will be tomorrow. So Zach Davidson's called up. There's also the Quentin Morris injury. So they might just do it as a safety net anyway because if Quentin Morris can't go, whatever. So there's a couple tight ends that are questionable here. So we'll see how it kind of unfolds. But keep an eye for the listeners out there to Zach Davidson. If he's called up, likely either Morris, Kincaid, or both are not going to be active on Sunday.
Let's pause for a moment. Thank our sponsor, Forefathers Organics in Dansville. At Forefathers Organics, their mission is to liberate, educate, and innovate with the highest quality CBD and hemp-derived products for your mind, body, and soul so you can live happy and free. Visit them at 87 Franklin Street in Dansville, online at forefathersorganics.com, or call them at 585-335-2223 to learn more about the products they
Unlock
offer.
the power of nature with Forefathers.
I always hit. I keep hitting the wrong button when I come out of that ad read. It's very disappointing. Got to regroup, get better for next week. How about the Rams injury report, AJ? What are you hearing there? Jared Verse, the stud rookie pass rusher, is set to play. He is one of the top pass rushers, not only in the rookie class, but in the league. This Rams defensive line, which we'll touch on maybe right after this, but it has been strong. But what have you heard from the Rams injury report today in your preview on the dailynewsonline.com?
Yeah, I'm going to have to update it. That officially came out. Verse is questionable. He's had a really good year, but it looks like you said, I think he is expected to play. It was an ankle injury.
I think Sean McVay said earlier today that he will play.
Okay, so Verse is still considered questionable. Another offensive lineman, Alaric Jackson, with a foot, as my cat is meowing like crazy, is questionable. And then Tyler Higbee is at full all week, but he's out, so maybe I think he's recovering from a major injury. And then same with KD Livingston, offensive lineman. He was full all week in practice, but he's out. So Higbee and Livingston are both out. And then, like you said, Verse, you said is probably going to play. And then Alaric Jackson, they're both questionable. So not really much on the injury front. Cooper Kupp, they're going to be fully loaded. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. You got a full offensive repertoire for Matt Stafford, and they've had their success the past couple of weeks, and Stafford's really playing well.
All right, so let's touch on the offense then. The top two wide receivers, obviously Nacua and Kupp, and they've missed a combined 9 games throughout this year, but they are far and away still the most heavily targeted players within this passing game. When they are in the fold, it makes this group much more capable of an explosive performance. And Matt Stafford, obviously a future Hall of Fame quarterback. Bills are going to have to be on their P's and Q's in the secondary this week. I think one thing that helps you is how strong you are at the cornerback position, particularly the physicality that both Christian Benford and Rasul Douglas display on a weekly basis. I think you got to make things difficult for these two guys, not really let them get into their routes comfortably, because once they're able to do that, they work that yards after the catch. They're very crafty at what they do. Nacua and Kupp are so key for this team. And like I said, they missed 9 games, and they're still the two most heavily targeted players within this passing game.
Yeah, Puka Nacua. It's like watching, like Cooper Kupp's still great, but Puka Nacua is like watching a younger Cooper Kupp. I mean, if the ball is in his vicinity, he is going to go and get it. The guy is just is crazy. I saw him at the Senior Bowl a couple of years ago, and like he didn't even not that he didn't stand out, but I didn't walk away thinking oh, Puka. And I'm not a scout, I don't really know much, but I didn't walk away thinking Puka Nacua was going to be anything. And then he fell to the 7th round, and then now we're here talking about him, and he's one of the best players and one of the best receivers in football. So the Bills are going to have their hands full, like you said. A couple of quick, cool stats. Maybe not for the Bills' sake, but on the Rams side, Matt Stafford has been on fire the last 3 weeks. 8 passing touchdowns, the second most in the National Football League. And then running back Kyron Williams enters the matchup with a streak of 24 games with at least 50 scrimmage yards, the second longest active streak in the NFL. He also finished last week with 100-plus rushing yards in a win over New Orleans. And then also, one of my storylines on the Daily News Online, the Bills can force some turnovers here. Kyron Williams, this season has already fumbled 5 times and has lost 3 of them. So keep an eye for the Bills. They were working on the peanut punch during practice this week. I think that's going to be a big focal point. They stripped Kyle Juszczyk in the red zone last week. So I think the Bills could potentially force some turnovers on a Kyron Williams, who's really been giving the ball away a lot this year for this Rams offense.
Yeah, Williams, I think a couple of 100-yard games in their last 4. Nacua with a couple of 100-yard games in their last 4. And Kupp and Nacua are both reception machines. I think Nacua has 7 or more receptions in 3 out of their last 4 games. Kupp with 6 or more receptions in 3 of their last 4 games. So it really comes down to those 3 players alongside Matt Stafford. You have to stop those 2 wide receivers, and you have to do your best to slow Kyron Williams. If you let all 3 of those players get going, it's going to be a long day for the Bills defense. But Bills defense has been phenomenal all year. They've been taking the ball away, as you mentioned, and with a player who's turnover prone like Kyron Williams, I think that's a great thing to point out. They've really shifted their focus in terms of their defensive philosophy where it was more, I think, conservative when Sean McDermott began his tenure here in Buffalo. It's always been a relatively aggressive unit, but I think that's really taken on an increased focal point over the past couple of years with these increased takeaways, becoming one of the best in the league at doing so. So keep your eye out, as AJ said, for maybe a fumble on Kyron Williams' part. Matt Stafford hasn't been over 300 yards since week 1. He's been finding the end zone, but I think he was under 200 yards passing this past week. I think he may climb over 300 yards passing this week, but I think he'll do a lot of that in garbage time. We'll get to our predictions on our preview show coming up on Sunday. But let's go to the defensive side of the ball, unless you have anything to add on the Rams offense.
Yeah, I'll just continue with the turnover real quick. The Bills do lead the NFL in takeaways with 24 and turnover differential at plus 17. And then they are also second in the league with the fewest giveaways at 7 and second in fumbles recovered with 11. So, I mean, you're just seeing like that didn't happen when Josh Allen was quarterback the last 2 years because he turned it over so much. They turned the ball over defensively. They got the ball, but they gave it away. Now you're seeing exactly what Sean McDermott preaches. That's complementary football. And that's why we're sitting here right now at 10-2 and for the first time in a long, long time. And it's kudos to Josh Allen and his development and also to Sean McDermott to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to get rid of these guys and we're still going to be able to play complementary football and not turn the ball over. So it's quite impressive what they're doing.
And the defensive side of the ball quickly for the Rams. They lose Aaron Donald, who retires at the conclusion of last season, but they bring in 2 rookies. We mentioned Jared Verse and also Braden Fisk on the inside, and they have helped the Rams compile a 39.8% pressure percentage, which is the highest rate in the league per Pro Football Focus. And they haven't recorded gaudy sack numbers. They're not finishing at such a high rate, but they are putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks like no other. And Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, both rookies, have really had a big impact on that.
Yeah, they got a lot of young guys. Like you mentioned, Braden Fisk leading the team in sacks with 6. Byron Young, second-year defensive tackle out of Texas, big body. He has 6 as well, and that's funny because he was not really considered the best pass rusher coming out, but clearly he's been working his technique here at the NFL level and really putting together a solid season. And then Kobe Turner as well, another name, a younger guy with 5 picks. Kind of cool here. A cool name I just looked up. Cameron Kinchins, the Miami U safety, the rookie that I thought the Bills could be interested in the later rounds instead of going after a Cole Bishop. He has 3 picks this year. So
he was on the cover of Bills Digest as a potential Bills draft target.
See, so you knew that Cameron Kinchins was going to produce this year. And yeah, I mean, 3 picks. That is quite impressive for a rookie that was considered too slow, like a Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde type, right? That's why I think he fit the Bills mold because he was a slower guy, but had the traits and the instincts, and that's what the Bills preach. But yeah, he's doing a really good job over there in LA. Their secondary is a little shaky. They had the Trey White signing that didn't work out and stuff like that, but we'll see. Josh Allen should be able to carve up this Rams defense passing.
I do agree, and I think also James Cook could have a big day here. It's, I believe, 2 weeks removed from Saquon Barkley running for, I think, 255 yards, and over the past 4 weeks, they've allowed, I think, 2 or 3 100-yard rushers. Yes, no, this week, if Cook goes for over 100 yards, it'd be the 3rd straight week that the Rams have allowed an opposing team's lead back to go for 100 yards or more, and it would be Cook's 3rd 100-yard game in 6 weeks. So he's really been coming on in terms of his ability to produce these big games. And I think the Rams defense is ripe for the picking in terms of their run defense. They really get after opposing quarterbacks, but they've struggled to stop the run, particularly in recent weeks.
Yeah, and they're playing for a lot, right? They're 3rd in the NFC West. They have a lot to play for, 6-6 coming into this one. I mean, that division is interesting. The Bills do have a chance to sweep the NFC West on Sunday. I thought I was going to have a good stat cooking. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think they swept the NFC West in 2022. I'm like, this is going to be the 2nd time they've done it. And then the Hail Murray game, obviously.
Yeah, how could
ended
you forget?
That also, of course, I know. I read it. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened.
I'm not the best at recalling games like that, but the minute that you mentioned that when you were, I thought of Hail Murray.
Yeah, so again, I think this Bills offense can have success. But again, it's a big game for both teams. I think the Bills are fighting for that 1 seed. That's what Josh Allen reiterated after that game against San Francisco. That's the goal now. They need a little help. Kansas City's got LA this weekend, which is no easy task, especially with the way they've been playing. The Rams, like I've said, are competing for still a division title. The Cardinals and Seahawks, I think, are up against each other this week. So there's a lot to play for both sides here, and I think this is a pivotal game. late December now or in December. And this is when it really starts to matter for a lot of teams that are fighting for that, playoff spots and those seedings.
All right, one more topic on the backside of this ad from Forefathers Organics.
Unlock the power of nature with Forefathers Organics, your premium CBD store. We offer the highest quality CBD and hemp products to liberate your mind, body, and soul, helping you live happy and free. Our mission is driven by excellence and transparency, using cutting-edge scientific methods to combat stress and target issues at their source. From potent ingestible CBD to soothing topicals, all our products are USDA certified organic. Discover all natural wellness from farm to table. Visit forefathersorganics.com for more information.
All right, AJ, this is the topic we touched on earlier this season, and I answered it a bit differently than I'm about to now. We asked, I believe it was amid the Bills' early season 3-game win streak. I think it was when they started 3-0. We asked if this was the best team under Sean McDermott, and I was reticent to say that I agreed with that statement. But I think I'm coming around on that. As complete of a team as this is, as balanced as they've been offensively, and really what I point to the most is the culture. You heard Dion Dawkins answer a question yesterday, I believe posed by Matt Beauvais of WKBW, of what is different about this year's team. And he really points to Josh Allen and how it's his team fully this year. He made sure to comment he wasn't taking shots at anybody who had departed the organization. But there's been a distinct change in terms of Josh Allen's overall influence on everything Bills, everything on the offense, everything in the locker room, just everything on this team. And he's playing as free as I think I've seen him in his career. The way he operates in press availability, in the locker room, when you see him interact with his teammates, his body language after games, he just seems to be as free as I've seen him, at least since I started covering the team this closely. And Dion Dawkins' comments yesterday really confirmed that for me. And I think that's the difference here. Yes, they have the talent, and I love the balanced offense. I think that's another key piece. But that culture in the locker room, the way that it's developed, you bring back Jordan Phillips, you bring back Micah Hyde. I just think it's such a strong, close-knit squad this year that I think this is indeed maybe not developing into. Maybe it is the best team under Sean McDermott.
Yeah, it's my thought process before the season about this team with all the transitional pieces and all the new faces was, how will they handle adversity when it's thrown at them? Because it's going to happen every single year. And what did they do? They lose 2 straight. One to Houston, which was awful. Josh Allen was 9 for 30, something in that game. They could not move the ball. They blew it up at the end. Fans are calling again for McDermott. It's all over. And how did they respond? They rattled off 7 straight. And some of those games easy, some of those games hard. But at the end of the day, they won 7 in a row and now have a chance to win 8 in a row. So, yes, I think this is the best team in the Sean McDermott era. And I think you touched on it perfectly. I think it is Josh Allen's team now. And Emmanuel Sanders hopped on the herd today with Colin Cowherd, and he discussed how when he was there, right, it was Emmanuel Sanders, a veteran receiver, Stephon Diggs, a veteran receiver. Allen kind of leaned on that. That's what he needed. Now it's total opposite. You got a Khalil Shakir, a younger guy. You got Curtis Samuel, who I got, again, a veteran, but still Allen's not leaning on him as much. It is his team.
Sure.
Dalton Kincaid, a younger player. James Cook, a younger player.
If anything, they're leaning on him.
Correct. So that's kind of the major difference to me. I think I still say this is beneficial that Stephon Diggs is out of this locker room. I'll say that that is a part of this. That the players won't say it, but it is.
Yeah, I think you're allowed to.
Yeah. So I think this Bills team is just clicking on all cylinders. They're all bought in. It's the most confident I've felt with the team. More confident in the 2020 year when they kind of broke out. I still didn't think they were there. It was kind of like that Packers-Lions trajectory a couple of years ago where they were like, the Packers were a younger team trying to figure it out. But yeah, he's not leaning on the Cole Beasleys, the John Browns anymore. He's not leaning on the Emmanuel Sanders, the older veterans. This is Josh Allen's team. The defense is still the same because they have great coaching, so that doesn't miss a beat. They're getting production out of their defensive line. Greg Rousseau's developing. Terrell Bernard was a hit. So they just continue to hit on these draft picks. You have a culture sustained. You got the guy to the locker room that was probably causing some stress and havoc, although they had a lot of success with him. And on top of that, they handled adversity. So for me, all my questions have been answered. This is the best team in the Sean McDermott era, and I'll say it right now. I think this is the best chance and the most confident I felt about a Bills team at least making a Super Bowl appearance.
All right, we'll see this weekend if they can win their eighth in a row. Bills, Rams coming up on Sunday evening. AJ and I will be back on Sunday with a game preview, but thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
Peace out.